pop. So they popped up a little bit. I think they're going to continue. The general trend is down, but we're going to have some slight.
We're going to do this. Yeah.
As we go down. So I'll go ahead and start. We're at 3 minutes after, which is how long I was going to give people. So obviously this is just some kind of tricks and tips. We're going to keep it to 15 minutes as far as the meat of the presentation, like we always do. And then after that, we'll stay on as long as there's questions. So if we need to stay on another 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we're happy to do that. But we want to get the meat of the presentation out of the way so you guys can get on with your day. And the first thing we're going to talk about is winning multiple offers. The first thing that we've got that we can help you guys with is the Fairway Advantage program. And you know, all transparency, this isn't a shock. This isn't anything crazy new or that stuff that it's not something that everyone doesn't have. But what it is it's our upfront underwriting program. So the people get in touch with us, we pre-approve them, and then we're hoping that the clients that would do this are committed because we're agreeing to do all the work up front, right? So we're going to put them through underwriting. We're going to process the loan. It's 12 hours worth, man hours on average worth of work to do all that. But the hope for that is that once we do that, they're going to stick with us. And that generally is the case, but it allows a lot of things to happen. Obviously, you don't need a financing contingency because they're fully approved. So all we need is the appraisal and we're good to go. And like I said, a lot of people have this upfront underwriting piece, but we call ours the Fairway Advantage program. But this is where it kind of gets more powerful. Van, is there anything about the Fairway Advantage program I missed that I should say more about it, really?
Not really. I mean, no extra fees. I mean, there's really no, I mean, the secret in the sauce is just we do the process backwards so that we have the underwriting approval, and it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, because you can put no financing contingency in your offers. So that helps a lot. And then, you know, we can try to, during due diligence, we can try to rush and get the appraisal back so you can literally go in with no contingencies. What really is interesting that Fairway did to take this one step further and really make this something more than just a standard upfront underwriting is Fairway has a cash guarantee. So for those clients that have been through the Fairway Advantage program, and there's a few stipulations, it's only up to $1 million. So if the purchase price is over $1 million, it won't work. But what it basically says is once they've been through the Fairway Advantage program, Fairway will guarantee that that loan will close as scheduled on the day of closing, or they will buy the house from the seller cash. And that's a pretty strong guarantee. It doesn't, now, obviously it's not going to protect from stuff like title issues, which has nothing to do with the loan or the buyers, right? So, you know, it's not for any reason, but if the buyer lost their job the week before closing, Fairway will buy the house cash. If the seller decides they don't want Fairway to buy the house, maybe they have a backup offer that's higher, maybe something's changed, and they say, okay, we don't want you to buy our house, Fairway will give the seller $10,000 for their trouble and then let them walk. So in addition to keeping the buyer's earnest money, they'll get $10,000 from Fairway, and then they can remarket the house, or they can, you know, do whatever they want with it, or Fairway will close as scheduled. So it basically is a guarantee, and it's part of the pre-approval. We don't send a pre-approval letter, we send a loan commitment letter because they're already fully approved. And then there's another piece of paper that talks about the Fairway cash guarantee that is part of your offer when you make it. So it's a really powerful thing. It's going to put you up against cash, you know, easy to compete against cash because you have Fairway backing your offer up. If we don't close for any reason, from the buy side, from the mortgage side, that Fairway will just buy it cash. So that's a pretty powerful thing. Van, I'll let you take over and kick the next slide to you.
Okay, so I think one of the main things that those two programs allow us to do is to be very aggressive on your contingency dates. Like we have a 10-day closing available. I mean, I'm not trying to put the kibosh on the Fairway Advantage programming, but that is definitely the Cadillac way to do it. Could we technically close in 10 days? I'll talk about more this in a minute, but could we close in 10 days without that? I mean, technically, yes, we could, especially right now. I mean, in the spring when everybody's blowing and going, probably not, but you know, we could do a 10-day closing, you know, whether we had the Fairway Advantage program or not. People wouldn't like us too much once they went through that. But it technically is possible. I think probably the biggest two things that the agents love about the Fairway Advantage program is that we can go into this thing, Mark alluded to it a second ago. But, you can go into these contracts with no appraisal and no financing contingencies, and it just really makes it aggressive. Every time I'm gonna pick on Daryl because I know him really well. Robin, you do the same thing. But like the first thing you're gonna ask me is when you see a pre-approval, okay, cool, we're getting ready to make an offer. How fast can you do this, right? That's just the blanket first questions. And so if they've been through the Fairway Advantage program, the answer is 0. And if you give us at least a 5-day due diligence or even a 7-day would be awesome. Like Mark said earlier, we can get that appraisal done during the due diligence period. So you already don't have to worry about the financing, but you don't have to worry about the appraisal either. And then if you stack that with that cash guarantee, I mean, man, that's a really, really tough offer to compete with. So that's kind of the 411 on all that kind of stuff. I don't think any of that stuff is really a big secret, but Mark, can you go to the next slide? I think one of the biggest advantages is you just get to leverage us as the team, right? So I get this all the time, like making a phone call to the listing agent, which is our first bullet on here. That has won so many deals. People just like to know who they're dealing with. The listing agent likes to know that it's a good local lender and not someone out of California. We can talk about the strength of the buyer. I mean, we can't, break privacy law, but we can't tell them their credit score, but we can say things in such a way that they get the message that it's a strong buyer and that kind of thing. So, we've been around a long time. So we've been in the industry here in Metro Atlanta for 24 years. I mean, most of the agents around here know us or know of us, or maybe they've even sat across the table from us before. And that's just a big deal. People always want to do business with people that they trust. Other thing is, we have weekend support. So we have a rotation where we have licensed folks available on the weekends, and we have a couple of our staff that is, most of the people on our team are licensed, only a few aren't. But the ones that aren't licensed that are covering the weekend for us, we have a loan officer available to be able to help them make it happen. So that way it just helps you guys be able to move quickly. You don't have to go through the rigmarole on a Saturday or a Sunday. So we already kind of talked about the appraisal and financing contingencies. We can go really fast. One thing I kind of wanted to mention earlier is that when you have the Fairway Advantage program done, the listing agents love that the buyers have already been through underwriting. The speed is great, but when there's just something about that when they know that they don't have to put them through underwriting, they've already been through underwriting. And most people aren't used to the level of underwriting that some of you guys are used to with us. And so that just really has a big psychological advantage. When underwriting is done, like that's just a really big deal. And the sellers and the listing agents really love that. So another thing I wanted to mention, and we know you guys very well, so we want to trust you not to wear us out, but we have appraiser waiver intel, what we kind of call it. In other words, just because someone's putting 50% down, that doesn't mean they'll get an appraisal waiver. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the down payment as much. It has to do with the data on the actual property itself. So we can actually put the address in our loan system, trigger the file, run it through a Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac underwriting system and see if the property will generate an appraisal waiver prior to you being under contract. Now, that's a good bit of work for us, and we don't love to advertise that everywhere. But if you're in a competitive situation and you need an edge, we can definitely do that for you. So, condo intel and assistance is just kind of what we already kind of did. Mark did the teaser. We're going to talk about condos and stuff like that in our next segment, kind of next week. But, we can actually take a look at a questionnaire. We've done this for many listing agents. Not a lot of people really like to lift up their sleeves and get real dirty on condos like we, are able to do. And we can just provide some strength there and some advantages when you have a condo that you're trying to be aggressive on. Especially one thing we always like to talk about is the condo step. Different agents sometimes have different things they like to offer, but we actually negotiated with Hodge and Temple, now they're, what are they now, Mark? McMichael and Gray? Yeah,
Mhm.
so they, Katie Keefus actually helped us come up with this condo stipulation so that you can put in a contract, because if you're dealing with a condo, you can waive appraisal and financing and still have trouble, even if the buyer is good. You know, if the condo has some issues, then if you have that stip, then you're still protected. So those are just some of the bullet points. I don't want to go too long, but those are just kind of some of the bullet points that, you know, we as a local powerhouse team are make available to you guys for you to be able to leverage us to be able to produce a winning offer. Now, there's one other cool thing that we have that Mark's about to take it away and talk about, but we have this really cool bid over ask tool, which can kind of help your buyers get more comfortable with going higher, you know, over ask, which we know is coming down the pipe here pretty soon. So take it away, Mr. Mark.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna share my screen, which was already shared, but I'm gonna share it again. So obviously, one of the best ways to win a deal is to get your clients comfortable with bidding over ask price in some situations. And you guys obviously are can everybody see that screen?
Mhm.
Okay. So, so if they understand that maybe it's not such a big deal to bid over ask, then sometimes that can help you guys win because your clients are more competitive. So what this shows you is I just picked a house that was for sale. I think this is a Jonathan Rich listing, or somebody on his team. But anyway, the meat's kind of down here. The asking price is 750. What if they bid $50,000 over that? What does that mean to that buyer? So the total bid, you know, is 800,000 is what they're going to bid on this house. And what it does is it takes that's 6.67% bid over value. It takes the average appreciation for that zip code over the last 5 to 10 years. And then it says, how long would it take to break even from bidding over ask? And in this case, it's 14.1 months. So it's not that long. If you bid a 50,000 over ask on this house, as long as you're there for a year and a half or a year and a couple months, all of a sudden you're not underwater anymore. You didn't overbid really. It's caught up with you. So then it shows here the 5-year forecast gain on that house. After you've owned the house 5 years, you're up $133,000. And then it kind of there's this graph here that goes in a little bit more detail. This is something that we can create for your buyers on any property. Realistically, we would do it for you whether we're the lender or not. If you just think, oh man, I'm really having a hard time getting my buyer to understand the ramifications of bidding over ask price. If you just send us the property address, the sales price, and then how, you know, what you want us to run this for, 20,000 over list or 50,000 over list, or you want us to run a couple, we're happy to create this and send it if that helps you guys out. But it's just a cool piece of tech and tool that shows here's where you're going to end up. You know, yeah, for the first year and a bit, you're underwater, but at the first year, you're only $8,900 down. So I know we're at our 15 minutes. So the last thing I'll leave you with, and this is just more of a thought, if you're having trouble, and you know, we all get that client that says, look, I'm paying rent right now, and it's $2,500 a month. There's just no way I can spend $3,500 a month on a mortgage payment. And if we pre-approved them, a lot of time we're looking at their debt to income ratio and like, yeah, you can, you just don't want to. Sometimes a really interesting thing to do, and I find that it really helps if you talk about it on a monthly basis, but if you take a $500,000 house and assume 5% appreciation just to run some basic numbers, what that means is that house is appreciating $25,000 a year. So $500,000 house next year will be worth $525,000. That's 5% appreciation. If you divide that by 12, that appreciation is a little over $2,000 a month. And if you explain that to buyers, okay, you're paying $2,500 in rent. You don't want to make a $3,500 mortgage payment, but forget the fact that you're paying the mortgage down and forget the tax benefits. Let's just talk about appreciation. For that $3,500 a month payment, you're getting $2,083 a month in appreciation. And sometimes you'll see the light bulb go off. I know when I'm talking to clients sometimes and they're like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Then you take the tax benefits, and then you take the fact that the $3,500 payment, you know, $400 or $500 is going to principal a little bit anyway. It just gets better and better. So anyway, I will stop here. So for those of you that need to jump off, I want to be respectful of the 15 minutes. And I'll also open it up to questions. If anybody wants to ask anything or say anything, you can throw it in the chat, but there's not enough people on here really. I would just say speak up if you've got any questions for Van or me. Comments?
I love the bid over ask tool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Mhm.
Super easy for us to create. Just you can the phone number on the screen on our screen here on the in-band and screen, or you can text that phone number, you can call that phone number, or you can email that email address, and we all see that, so you'll get a quick answer on all that stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Mary Ann.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Marina.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Thanks, Brian.
Have a good one.
See you guys.
Hey, guys.